How did Jeanette and her sister Jessica come to live with us? That's quite a story. The beginning of November, I was making dinner on a Sunday for my husband Jack's birthday. The telephone rang. It was my daughter Wendy. And she said, "Mom, in our church today, they announced that 2 girls need a place to live. They're 16 and 12. And I said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "Well, you work at the health department. Maybe you can help get a placement for them so they are together." I said, "I'll have to think about that," as I was making dinner. And I started to cry. And I went in to Jack and I said, "I just can't believe it. I can't let go of this." And he said, "Well, we'll keep thinking about it." So I went back in the kitchen, and that happened 2 more times. And the 3rd time, and I know today, he can tell you exactly where it was in the football game. When he said, "Oh," and I'm not saying the next word, and he said, "Call Ken Harper." Ken Harper was the superintendent of schools in Zealand, and we lived in Holland. And in those days, you did not have school of choice. Lily, did you notice she was the same age as you? 12. And so I called Ken Harper. I didn't know anything about these girls, except their ages, and they needed a place to live. And Ken Harper said, "Well, you'll have to pay tuition." And I said, "How much is that?" He said, $1. And that began a journey. The girls came over on Monday to interview us, and on Friday they moved in. Jeanette was the young one, like Lily, and they stayed in the Zealand school system, the 2 girls did, for several years. And then when high school started, they moved into the Holland school system. But Jeanette made some friends that are even here today when she was in Zealand. And they have flown from long distances to be here. That tells you something about Jeanette. But when the girls went to school, Jeanette immediately was involved with all the gang members. In fact, our basement, just not too many years ago, we finally painted over the gang signs that she had painted on our basement walls. I'm sorry now that I did that, because I kind of like to have that reminder. But her involvement in school was always with gang members and people of color, because she felt, and this didn't necessarily mean her girlfriends, but it was the boys. But that's how she felt. She felt second class. She always felt like she didn't quite measure up. But she graduated from Holland High with a gold cord. That's how intelligent she was. She went to MSU, even though we're Michigan people. She never did what we told her to. But she left after a while because she didn't feel that she fit in. And she followed a boyfriend who was leaving Holland and going out west. And when she came back, about a year later, she was pregnant. And that baby was her whole world. Where did the baby go? She was sitting right here. She left. Anyway, that was Marcella. She came back and had the baby in Holland and lived with the father's family until he broke her jaw. And this is what brought Jeanette back into our lives. She was in the hospital one night, late in the middle of the night, and Dr. Van Weeren, who was a dentist, or a dental surgeon, and a friend of my husband, a dentist, called me and said, "I've got Jeanette in the ER. I need to wire her jaw together, but she's so hysterically upset, I can't do it. She has a 5-month-old daughter, and she's afraid the state will take her daughter away." And so I was sleeping next to Jack. I didn't even wake him up. I just said, "Tell them to bring the baby here." At 6 o'clock in the morning, a police officer arrived at the front door with a baby in just a diaper. And that was Marcella. That afternoon, while I had to take the baby up to the hospital every few hours because she was nursing Marcella. But I did work in the health department, and I knew who was the biggest, toughest woman that worked in protective services, and called her on a Sunday, and she came over that afternoon. And Jack and I sat with her at our dining room table and made a plan to get her attention, to turn her life around. And it worked. She came home after a few days, and she could only drink Ensure. And until she could eat, she had to stay with us. And she became our daughter again during that time. And she was so grateful. And we then made the plan and told her what the plan was, that she was going to go live in a safe home. And the day I took her to that safe home, I cried all the way home because I felt so sad to be giving her up, and it was the best thing that ever could have happened to her. She stayed there long enough to heal completely. They helped her find a job and an apartment. She was working in her job. I think maybe at some point she had 2 of them, and still taking care of that baby, keeping in touch with us. That Christmas, at Christmas time, I have to explain, we always have a white envelope on the Christmas tree, which is a donation to some place somewhere in our community. At Christmas tree, a second white envelope showed up. It was from Jeanette. And she was making, on her meager salary, a donation to women in transition. That was the beginning of watching this spirit come out of Jeanette that we always knew was there. She married Matt. She married Matt 19 years ago today. And Blaine Newhouse was the pastor, and this is where she got married. And he adopted Marcella. And eventually Austin and Lily came along. All of our holidays included Stella, Aunt Jane, and all her kids, and Matt, and we were one happy family, and we really were. My Mother's Day card this year is on the front of it says, "We didn't start out as a family, but I'm glad that we have become one." I will never throw that card away. She understood and always reached out to all those people who were without status, without safety, without enough food, without enough security, because that's how she had lived. She knew that side of life. When she got her job at the seminary, she took a picture of her door that led to her office because her name was on it. And she sent it to Jack saying, "Do you believe in miracles now?" I wish we still had that picture. She ran for political office in order to have a platform. She told me, "I know I'm not going to win because I'm a Democrat, but I need this platform." She did it so she could talk to people about what she stood for. She stood for health care for everybody, education for everybody, and mental health care, because she had lived with that problem all of her life. When I called my high school friend, I'm from New Jersey, and this friend, we were called twin cheerleaders, and I called her and told her about Jeanette, and she was devastated, and she said she was up all night, and in the morning she ran across this short poem and sent it to me, and I want to read it to you. It's called Words. Now she is gone, like a flight of wild birds, and things that were words before are now more than words. Courage and loyalty, humor and pride, these are the weapons she used till she died. Love gives us life meaning, in a look, in a breath, but truly never so deeply as death. She was exhausted, and she was in a lot of pain, and I knew that. I was in touch with her every day. A lifetime of pain and losses. She was taking care of everybody but herself. And then, on the 20th of June, she took care of herself, and she fell into God's arms, and God caught her. She is at peace. We must carry on for her, believing God as she did, doing what Jesus did as she did.